Discover the incredible bond. How a Navajo chief and an orphan girl transformed each other's lives. Kania stood at the crest of the desolate hill, surveying his parched community below. The earth cracked beneath the relentless sun, a bleak testament to the drought that had ravaged his people's land. Each passing day deepened the shadows of doubt in his heart. As chief, he felt the weight of history pressing down on him, a heavy cloak woven from the traditions of his ancestors. Could he truly uphold their legacy while battling the encroaching specter of despair? The challenge gnawed at him, a constant whisper in the back of his mind urging him to surrender. What if he was failing his people? What if the old ways could no longer sustain them? The thought twisted in his gut, igniting questions that flared like the sun's unyielding rays. Was he clinging to memories of the past, while the future slipped through his fingers like grains of sand? He felt responsible, mired in the anguish of uncertainty. As Kania turned back toward the village, a flicker of movement caught his eye. A girl, unkempt and decidedly out of place, wandered into view. Lily, fresh from the foster care system, appeared to be searching for something. Acceptance, perhaps, or a semblance of belonging. Though he instinctively bristled against her presence, Kania couldn't help but notice the determination in her eyes. Beneath the tangled hair and worn sneakers lay a tenacity reminiscent of his younger days, mentoring troubled souls who had drifted like leaves in the wind.
The hesitation brewed within him, making his muscles tense. Did he dare reach out to her when he was struggling to help his own tribe? She was a stranger, yet she felt drawn to the vibrant art that adorned the village, a celebration of their culture that had begun to feel like an anchor in turbulent waters. Did she embody the promise of change he so desperately needed?
Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Lily immersed herself in the community garden, her enthusiasm sparked an unexpected shift in Kania. She nurtured the remaining crops with a passion that echoed the resilience of the land, and for the first time in weeks, he felt hope begin to rise like the morning sun. But the threat of the corporate developer loomed in his mind like a storm cloud. Would it trample the fragile bond that was beginning to form between them? Would their aspirations, and the very essence of their identities, be swallowed whole by the greed of outsiders? Kania's heart raced, fear eating away at his resolve. What if the struggle against the developer, the fierce protections of land and tradition that he represented, also meant risking this newfound connection to Lily? In her, he saw remnants of lost futures, and yet he clung to his responsibility as chief. The collision of these worlds sent spikes of uncertainty through him, each moment heavy with implication. As shadows deepened and the sun dipped toward the horizon, Kania felt the tension tighten like a noose around his thoughts. He was on the brink of revealing the depth of his fear to her, yet uncertainty gnawed at him. Could he trust her? Just then, a stranger arrived, their presence like a jolt of electric tension that crackled in the air. The world seemed to hold its breath as the unknown figure approached, secretive whispers trailing like the fading sunlight. What revelation lay hidden in the stranger's words? And how would it shake the fragile foundation of trust Kania and Lily were desperately building? Kania's heart raced as the stranger drew closer, the heaviness of anticipation thick in the air. He could feel Lily's curious gaze shift between him and the newcomer, her hopeful demeanor faltering as the tension escalated. The interloper was cloaked in an aura of authority that seemed to draw every eye in the village, and Kania's instincts screamed to protect his people from whatever this outsider planned to unleash. Chief Kania, The figure addressed him directly, their voice low but filled with an unsettling confidence. "I've come with news about your land." Kania's chest tightened. What could this person possibly know that he didn't? He took a step forward, determined to assert his leadership. "What do you want?" he asked, masking the tremor in his voice. The stranger smirked. It was a smile that suggested hidden knowledge rather than goodwill. "I represent the developers looking to invest in this area. We see potential, real growth. But the question is, do you?" With every word, Kania's inner turmoil surged. Could he lose the very land that cradled his people's history? Yet the dry earth beneath him felt heavy, a reminder of dwindling resources and the need for change. "This land isn't yours to take," he asserted firmly, though doubt wove itself into every syllable. Lily shifted slightly closer to Kania, emboldened by the intensity of the confrontation. She had witnessed struggles in her life before and knew the flame of resistance, even if she felt out of place in this battle. Her presence sparked a glimmer of confidence in Kania. She was more than a girl lost in a garden. She embodied the strength of a future he feared losing. "We're offering capacity-building programs, sustainable practices," the stranger continued, ignoring Kania's defiance. "This isn't just about development, it's about modernization." "Or exploitation," Kania countered, his voice steady. "Who will benefit from this?" Lily interjected, finding her voice beside the chief, her youthful skepticism carving through the tension. "Will you really support the community, or just line your pockets?" Surprise flickered across the stranger's face, and Kania caught a glimpse of their discomfort, an acknowledgement of the truth that resonated all too clearly. Together, he and Lily had confronted their greatest fears, standing firm against the tidal wave of greed that threatened to engulf them. Yet just as the confrontation began to crystallize into clarity, the stranger's expression hardened. "You should consider the offer, Chief. Change is inevitable. Crude denial will only bring strife. Don't let some naive notions about tradition blind you." A flare of indignation surged within Kania. Tradition wasn't a mere vestige of the past. It was the spirit that animated his people. Taking a deep breath, he stood taller. "Our identity cannot be bought or sold. You underestimate what it means to fight for our future." The stranger regarded him with a mix of contempt and intrigue. "Let's see if that spirit holds when real decisions need to be made." With that, they turned on their heel and walked away, leaving Kania and Lily swallowed by the ambivalence of resolve and uncertainty. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, an unsettling silence enveloped the village. Kania felt the weight of their words pressing on him, but within him flickered a burgeoning fire, a need to assert their existence. "Are we doing the right thing?" Lily asked, her voice drawing Kania from his thoughts. "I don't know, but we're choosing to fight," he replied, a burgeoning determination swelling within him. Kania contemplated his next move with anxiety mingling with resolve. The impending struggle loomed larger than before. He glanced at Lily, realizing that together they were stronger than alone. Perhaps she was the key to navigating this tumultuous path ahead, a partner in the battle for their identities. Together, they would have to wrestle with the hardest truths of their existence. What choices awaited them at the crossroads of tradition and progress? As shadows deepened on the horizon, Kania understood that the fight was only just beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. Kania paced the perimeter of the village, the chill of night creeping in as he wrestled with his thoughts. The din of crickets filled the air, creating an unsettling symphony that mirrored his turmoil. Each step echoed his uncertainty. His commitment to safeguarding the land felt heavy, his mind replaying the stranger's words like a broken record. What did progress truly mean? Did it necessitate the erosion of his culture and identity? Lily followed close behind, her presence grounding him, yet forcing him to confront another reality. Her innocence was increasingly challenged by the harsh realities surrounding them. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked, breaking the silence that hung between them like a taut wire. Her voice held a tremor, revealing her worry. "They may," Kania replied, the thought settling like a weight in his stomach. "And when they do, we need to be ready." For the first time, Kania contemplated truly preparing for the implications of the stranger's visit. Conviction surged through him. Change would not happen passively. But what should that preparation look like? Should he gather support from the village, or venture on his own to seek knowledge about the developer's true intentions? Both options seemed vital yet daunting. "Let's meet with the elders," he suggested suddenly, surprising himself. It felt like a moment of clarity, a call to engage those more experienced. They had committed their lives to preserving the traditions that shaped his upbringing. "But what if they see it as a threat?" Lily countered, her brows knitting together in concern. "What if they don't want to hear about change?" Kania halted, considering her words. "If we don't confront the threat head-on, we risk losing everything." The rising resolve ignited within him. This was not merely a defense of land, but a stance against erasure. If we have any hope of shaping our future, the elders must be involved. The following morning, Kania gathered the villagers beneath the ancient oak tree that stood sentinel at the village entrance. It was a spot steeped in history, a place where wisdom was exchanged like currency. His heart raced as he addressed the group. The familiar faces of his kin lined before him, filled with expectant curiosity. "The world outside is changing around us," he began, voice steadied by conviction. "A stranger came with an offer, an enticing proposal that could alter the fabric of our home." Gasps rippled through the audience, glances exchanged that hinted at fear and uncertainty. "We cannot shy away from this," he continued, the rhythm of his words gaining strength. "This is our chance to combine our traditions with new ideas, creating a sustainable and authentic path forward. We must decide together how to protect what we love, while embracing what could help us thrive." Lily, emboldened by his words, raised her hand to speak. "It isn't just about the land we stand on," she began, her voice clear and unwavering. "It's about the trails we leave behind for our children. We can learn and adapt without losing ourselves." Some in the crowd leaned forward, intrigued by the interplay of tradition and progress unfolding before them. Kania watched their expressions shift, perhaps in recognition of their dual identity. Yet as discussions unfolded, an unexpected tension flickered at the edges of the gathering. An elder rose, his demeanor stoic. "Change is not without loss. We must tread carefully, for the lures of wealth are seductive but treacherous." Kania felt the weight of the elder's words. This was not merely a debate about progress. This was a confrontation with reality, one that required deeper introspection and a collective vision forged through trust. After hours of discourse that shifted from hope to fear and back again, Kania emerged with a plan. The villagers would form a council to assess the developer's proposal rigorously, ensuring their voices resonated in the decisions ahead. But as satisfaction filled him, a lingering unease settled, a reminder that the fight was just beginning. That night, as Kania lay in bed, his thoughts raced. He felt the quiet pressure of the impending decisions, aware of their potential to carve new paths while harboring the weight of his ancestors. A question burned inside him. Is change indeed a mirage, or could it be a bridge toward a brighter future? As dawn broke, illuminating the land he fiercely loved, Kania sensed the restless energies of a new day. What confrontations awaited them as they delved further into this alliance with the developers? Would they uncover hidden truths that could alter their course irrevocably? The answers loomed just ahead, threading the fabric of their future together. The council meeting was to take place that afternoon, and Kania's stomach churned with anticipation. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting patterns of light and shadow onto the dirt path. He felt the weight of scrutiny pressing against him. Every villager's gaze carried the hopes and fears of not just today, but of an uncertain future. As Kania approached the communal gathering space, he realized that the potential for change was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. The elders and villagers assembled, their faces a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. He was about to give voice to their collective anxieties, the very thought urging him to be more than just a conduit of feelings. He needed to be a leader. Today is about understanding the shift, he began, taking a deep breath to steady himself. We're not merely accepting or rejecting a proposal. We must find a way to ensure our culture lives alongside any development. He allowed his gaze to land on each elder, knowing they bore wisdom, but also the caution of tradition. I fear for the spirit of our land, an elder named Maku spoke up, his voice heavy with concern. Change may bring riches, but at what cost? We have seen other tribes fall to the same fate. It was a valid point, one that had echoed in Kania's own mind. The seductive call of prosperity could lead to devastating losses. Kania felt the rising tide of anxiety among the villagers, a palpable fear that threatened to paralyze their ambitions. How could he convey the dual importance of progress and preservation? It felt as though he was standing at a precipice, and the promise of a new path was inviting. I understand your fear, Maku, Kania replied, channeling his determination. But we must also recognize potential benefits. What if this alliance allows us to uphold and even expand our cultural expressions? We could create pathways for our children to thrive. When was the last time we considered what influence we have on this change? A ripple of surprise spread through the gathering as his words hung in the air. For many, the thought of embracing rather than rejecting the outside world felt foreign, yet hopeful. Slowly, more villagers began to voice their opinions. An elder's daughter proclaimed the need for educational resources. Another proposed the idea of eco-tourism that could sustain them financially while honoring their heritage. Emboldened by this newfound dialogue, Kania sought to unite these ideas. The council will be our bridge. We can demand conditions that respect our culture if we approach the developers as partners rather than enemies. But Kania knew that with every step toward a potential alliance came new risks. Return visits by the developers seemed inevitable, the urgency of information pressing down upon him. We need to be ready, he spoke firmly, flicking between hope and apprehension. Our intentions must be clear. Our identity cannot be negotiated. Maku nodded, but the weight of caution still hung in the air. What if they refuse? He challenged, a skeptical brow raised. Kania could feel the tension shift again. These conversations were deep, like the roots of their trees. The fear of being misplaced loomed large. I need to know who I am facing. I will visit the developers myself, Kania announced, his heart pounding as he committed to the plan. I will gather more information, advocate for our desires, and ensure they understand our terms before we proceed further. Skepticism met his declaration, yet there was a flicker of support in a few faces. This was a defining moment. Confidence soared within him as he envisioned what this investigation could yield. That night, as the stars blanketed the sky, Kania felt the sudden clarity of discernment wash over him. He could feel the notion of who he was shifting. Was he turning into a messenger, a negotiator, or perhaps something more significant, a leader for his people? Yet a lingering question haunted him. How would he bridge their dual identity while confronting the developers? His plans set in motion, he closed his eyes only to find turbulent currents swirling. This was just the beginning of a far more significant confrontation. As dawn broke, illuminating his path with a resolute brightness. Kania understood that the next step wouldn't merely reveal their future, but also shape his very existence. The developers awaited, unsuspecting of the depth of relationship Kania planned to forge, or the shadows of truth that lingered on the periphery. Would they recognize him as not only an opponent, but a potential ally? Or would their interactions solidify divisions he sought to reconcile? The answers loomed like whispers in the wind, igniting his anticipation for what lay ahead. Kania awoke with the sun creeping over the horizon, burning away the fog of hesitance that had clouded his mind. Today would be pivotal. The weight of his choices hung heavily in the air. The cool morning breeze brought with it a sense of urgency, a reminder that time was fleeting and the developers would soon arrive. As he dressed, every movement felt more intentional, more purposeful. Who was he becoming? This felt like the dawn of not just a new day, but a new phase in his life. He stepped out of his dwelling, taking the time to immerse himself in the familiar sounds of the village. Laughter echoed from a distance as children chased one another, oblivious to the weighty matters of the world around them. He was reminded again of his motivations. It was for them, the next generation, that he sought to carve out a future that embraced both progress and preservation. But self-doubt clawed at him. Was he capable of leading this change? Or would he become another voice, hinting at hope, while failing to deliver? As he walked through the village, Kania rehearsed the points he wanted to make to the developers. He envisioned their faces, smooth, expressionless masks of indifference and corporate ambition. What would it take to penetrate their armor? Would they see him as a peer, a partner in progress, or merely as an obstacle to overcome? These questions gnawed at him, yet he pressed forward, clinging to the flicker of resolve that had ignited during the council meeting. He arrived at the meeting site, a clearing that had felt sacred in the days of his ancestors. However, today it felt like a battleground. Kania instinctively straightened his back, an attempt to ground himself in the authority this moment demanded. The developers were already present, their demeanor strikingly confident, a mix of suited professionalism and casual detachment. They exchanged pleasantries, but Kania sensed the superficiality of their smiles. This was a business transaction for them. "Thank you for coming," Kania said, voice steady despite the whirlwind within. Meeting their eyes, he sought to convey both respect and unyielding determination. He focused on projecting authority, knowing that he had to be more than a mere representative. He had to stand as a pillar for his community's culture. "I believe it's essential to discuss not only the logistics of our potential partnership, but also the values that underpin our heritage." Their initial reactions were muted, but the way his words hung in the air encouraged him to continue. He outlined their needs: educational resources, eco-tourism initiatives, the integration of local crafts into any designs they pursued. Each proposal wrapped around the notion that cultural integrity could coexist with progress. The developers listened, but a line of skepticism remained etched on their faces. Kania could practically hear their internal dialogues. Would these demands compromise profitability? One of the developers, a woman named Ilara, began to respond, but Kania interjected, anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. "These are not just conditions, they are profound commitments to our identity. By aligning your objectives with ours, we can foster a mutually beneficial relationship. I ask you to see the value in our culture not as a barrier, but as an asset." Kania held his breath, the tension building with each passing moment. He felt an unfamiliar rush of vulnerability. He was bearing the very soul of his people to strangers. What if they rejected this overture, viewing him as naive? What if he faltered right at the precipice of potential change? Ilara leaned back, her brow furrowed. Kania caught glimpses of reflection and uncertainty, the faint flickers of a shift. Then she asked, "And what if we were to consider these proposals? How would you ensure these aspects are safeguarded against the tides of commercialization?" A glimmer of hope sparked within Kania. Recognition, the first tiny crack in their facade. He hadn't just presented a list of demands, he was opening a dialogue about shared values. It occurred to him that he had tapped into more than just negotiations. He was challenging their perceptions. As they delved deeper into the discussion, Kania could feel the possibilities of collaboration beginning to unfurl. Hope flickered wildly in his chest, even as fear whispered doubts. He was navigating uncharted territory, one that carried the potential to redefine the village's destiny. Yet as he spoke, the underlying question loomed with increasing urgency. How far was he willing to go to protect what was rightfully theirs? Would he fight tooth and nail for their heritage, even against those who promised prosperity? Kania understood he would have to confront not merely the developers, but also his own values. With determination coursing through him, he met their gazes again. The moment of truth was on the horizon, and Kania braced himself for the reflection of his choices. Would this be a partnership forged in mutual respect, or would he have to draw a line in the sand? The mantle of leadership rested heavy upon his shoulders, but could he uphold it in the face of conflict? Kania remained locked in the intense gaze of Ilara, searching for any sign of engagement that would validate his efforts. What had started as gratitude for her openness now transformed into a battle for understanding. The developers held power, one he hadn't yet grappling with fully. He had erected a fortress around his intentions, yet could it withstand their corporate approach? "We recognize your desire to protect your culture," Ilara said, her voice steady. "But businesses must prioritize profits. How can you guarantee that this endeavor will not drain our resources?" That question clawed at something deep within him, prompting thoughts he wished to avoid. Every financial statistic seemed like a dagger aimed at the delicate fabric of his proposal. "No one said it would be easy," Kania responded, his voice low but firm. "But rather than viewing it as a financial drain, consider it an investment. An investment." The words resonated like drums echoing in his mind. Kania allowed the truth of them to settle. He wanted them to know that preserving their heritage shouldn't just be seen as an expense. It could augment their own standing. He pushed past the trembling conviction that gripped him, reaching for relentless clarity. What if we created a financial model that allows for profitability while promoting cultural tourism? A way for visitors to experience our way of life respectfully? The idea felt electrifying, sparking images of immersive experiences more enriching than mere exploitation. Ilara's brows knit together, her intrigue evident. "And how do you envision this working?" He launched into a vision. Themed lodges inspired by traditional architecture, artisans demonstrating crafts with dignity, hosting workshops that ignite genuine interest. Each element would invite the world to engage with their culture thoughtfully. Yet, even as he spoke, the doubt remained. Could this enchantment in words be translated into the reality he feared his community would not embrace? Kania could sense the flicker of interest cascading among the developers. Ilara's posture shifted subtly, a softening in her demeanor. For the first time, his proposals landed with a certain weight. He tightened his grip around this fleeting momentum. "Perhaps what you view as obstacles can become unique selling points," he pressed on, seeing cracks in their indifference. "Imagine eco-conscious travel choices, curated directly with the guidance of our people. Visitors will not only leave with a souvenir, but a deeper understanding." Yet, as excitement ignited in him, uncertainty shadowed its brilliance. He recalled the voices of elders warning against selling out. Was he planting seeds of sustainability, or was he merely paving the way for exploitation in another guise? That thought hung heavily, an anchor tethering his spirit when it longed to soar. Ilara leaned closer, biting her lip as if considering the implications. This could require extensive planning. Her voice trailed off. Then let's plan it together, Kania offered, feeling an urgency in every word. Let us be partners in this endeavor. You don't have to go down this road alone. The challenge of collaboration flushed his cheeks with warmth. If they could truly put aside their intentions and work toward a common goal. Perhaps this was Kania's chance, not only to influence choices, but to grow alongside new allies. The silence that followed enveloped them, each party weighing the gravity of what was unfolding. Kania's heart hammered within him. Was he seeing the beginning of a constructive alliance forming? What do we do next? Elara finally asked, her voice laced with a combination of intrigue and caution. At that moment, Kania felt both exhilaration and apprehension. He possessed the power to shape a future, yet the burden of his convictions pressed deep into his conscience. This was more than a negotiation. The stakes were their identities at play. As the conversation began twisting into plans, the echo of your words lingered, batted back and forth like a shuttlecock. But would the path they paved together lead to true harmony? Or would the shadow of mistrust hover, reminiscent of this precarious dance between culture and commerce? The challenge before Kania morphed into a living entity. Could he balance genuine representation against the risk of commoditization? The world outside felt unpredictable, but within this moment, he sensed the precarious edge of change inches away. In the stillness that followed their discussions, he knew this was just the beginning, and he stood on the precipice of revelation. His next move could dismantle the very foundations he sought to protect. But what remained unclear was whether he had the strength to confront the corporate giants pulling at the threads of tradition. Kania's mind raced as Elara's cautious inquiry hung in the air, thick with potential. They had crossed a threshold from mere discussion to shared ambition, yet myriad questions clawed at his resolve. He stared at the blueprint of cultural integration he had laid out, each line a fragile thread in a tapestry that could either unite or entangle their destinies. As he imagined the trust building between them, he couldn't escape a spiraling sensation that the outcome rested solely on his shoulders. What if the developers saw only profit? What if their intentions soured the beauty he cherished? Balancing aspirations and caution felt like walking a tightrope, one misstep threatening to topple everything. Let's establish our objectives, Kania suggested, trying to inject an air of stability into the tumultuous uncertainty. What does success look like for you? Elara's brow furrowed again, but this time it almost felt like a shared struggle. We'll need to assess the market, she replied, her tone shifting from dismissal to a strategic openness that Kania now sought as an ally. I'll bring in my financial team, but we can't lose sight of our priorities. We must protect our bottom line. The duality of her response sounded alarms in him. Every double entendre carried weight, and profit still loomed like a specter over their budding partnership. The past loomed as dense and daunting in his mind as the decisions awaiting clarification. You and I know cultural integrity isn't quantifiable on a balance sheet, Kania replied. His voice steadied as he fought against the impulse to retreat under corporate scrutiny. But if we design our project with heart and respect, profitability will follow. It can't merely be a checkbox. He felt an ember of determination ignite within him, pushing him forward. Elara's gaze met his, piercing and unwavering. You're asking us to gamble on ideals rather than concrete figures. That's a hard sell in this industry. The friction in her words mirrored his inner turmoil, yet his imagination flared with visions of what could be. He envisioned guests transcending mere visitation. They would emerge as advocates for his culture, changing perceptions in ways that transcended commerce. Perhaps we could foster community involvement in these experiences, Kania proposed, feeling the energy shift again. Have real interactions, stories, dances, artistry, surround them. Let them feel the cultural heartbeat, rather than just witness it. The notion rolled off his tongue with fervor, highlighting the unity he craved to achieve in this complicated realm. Ilara nodded slowly, contemplatively. That shifts the dynamics. If they experience authenticity, they might promote it organically. She leaned back in thought, and he saw the gears turning in her mind, recognizing a glimmer of hope in the exchange. Kania pressed onward, manic energy coursing through him. We could establish feedback loops from visitors to assess impact and address community concerns. He could feel the weight of possibilities lifting, offering pathways instead of dead ends. Risk assessment, social impact studies, these would be essential, Ilara agreed, the hesitation that once marred her features beginning to ease. But beyond the transactional dialogue, Kania sensed deeper currents at play. Could he become a beacon of truth in a world riddled with ulterior motives? Or would he become another voice, lost in the cacophony of capitalist ideals? Before he could decipher her intent further, a thought struck him like a bolt of lightning. What if they hosted a trial run? We could launch an initial pilot program, allowing us to gauge genuine interest, he proposed, bolting with excitement. It could serve as a prototype, helping draw attention without full-scale commitment. Her eyes lit up, an acknowledgement that they were delving deeper into this partnership. And if successful, that could demonstrate profitability while highlighting cultural gains. It's daring, but it might just work, she said, without the usual tight restraints that accompanied corporate dialogue. Internally, Kania battled fierce waves of self-doubt against this spark of hope. This was the moment of reckoning he craved. Yet each possibility came with its own set of trials. He felt the swell of responsibility rising and wondered if he could carry the weight of an entire culture's legacy on his shoulders without letting it shatter under pressure. As thoughts raced, he felt the cloud of uncertainty return, casting shadows over his newfound resolve. Could he lead his community toward a renaissance? Or was he merely navigating them into dangerous waters? Striking a balance was no longer a theoretical exercise, but a looming imperative. What if the pilot fails? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, laden with dread. Ilara's response cut through his spiraling thoughts, firm yet compassionate. Then we learn. But we have to try if we want to create a future that's ours to mold. Her conviction stirred something deep within him, a flicker of courage amid a storm of fear. Caught between optimism and dread, Kania knew one thing. This partnership could either redefine everything or shatter it irreparably. With eyes wide open to both risk and potential, he forged ahead, standing poised at the edge of a pivotal chapter in his life, ready to either rise or fall. What he didn't realize was that his choices would soon send ripples far beyond their shared aspirations, echoing back to profoundly test his resolve. The stakes were set, and as the ground shifted beneath them, he sensed the drawing line between summit and abyss. Kania's pulse quickened as he stepped out of the conference room, the weight of his discussion with Ilara bearing down on him. The flicker of hope ignited in their conversation had illuminated paths he never considered, but it also invited a wave of apprehension. Would the pilot program truly reflect the values he so desperately wanted to uphold? Or would it merely serve as a flashy facade for financial gain? As he walked through the stark, sterile hallways of the office, each step felt heavier than the last. The routine world of polished floors and fluorescent lights felt alien, a stark contrast to the cultural depths he sought to encapsulate. He paused at a window overlooking the bustling city, a place where lives intertwined yet remained disparate, as if too consumed by the chase of ambition to connect. His stomach churned with a familiar mix of excitement and dread. Standing there, Kania reflected on the crossroads before him. He had always envisioned himself as a steward of culture, a protector of traditions. Yet now, juggling financial and ethical imperatives felt like trying to balance two separate identities. One rooted in authenticity, the other in profit margins. This tension built a fissure within him that grew deeper with every strategic decision. However, his instinct told him that this endeavor could reveal hidden strengths he had yet to tap into. He had spent years nurturing a sense of community among those around him, relying on stories and authentic interactions. In drawing from this reservoir of experience, perhaps he could harness the very essence of what made his culture vibrant and present it to a broader audience. He returned to his desk, feeling the contours of the project formulating in his mind like an intricate puzzle. The ideas he and Elara discussed swirled around him, whispering possibilities that stitched together hope and purpose. What if they incorporated local artisans into their pilot? Could they not only showcase their skills, but also educate visitors on the cultural significance behind their crafts? Kania grabbed a pen and sketched out 4 sections on a notepad: art, storytelling, dance, and cuisine. These were the cornerstones of cultural experience he envisioned. Suddenly, his hesitations transformed into actionable thoughts, each stroke of the pen embodying his resolve to infuse authenticity into the fabric of the project. Yet, the fear of backlash haunted him. What if the community viewed this initiative as appropriation? What if they believed Kania was exploiting their heritage for capital gain? He hesitated, the plan blurring slightly in front of him. The juxtaposition of his intentions against the potential misinterpretation felt like standing at the river's edge, daring to leap into a whirlpool of opinions. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, Kania pondered how he would approach the stakeholders. What if he presented them not just a business proposal, but a heartfelt narrative? A story that connected the numbers to the culture encapsulated in each visitor experience. He felt an unfamiliar resolve blossom, quelling some of the turmoil igniting his thoughts. Rising from his desk, Kania sensed an impending confrontation with himself and the world around him. There would be critiques and opposition, pushback from those who feared change. But deep within, he recognized a burgeoning courage, a belief that to challenge the norms surrounding cultural display could indeed forge new avenues. He envisioned conversations that could happen, the various voices involved, and the dynamics that might flow from them. Before he ended the day's reflections, one last truth crystallized in his mind. Partnerships were not solely built on blended visions, but also on honest confrontation. He needed to foster a safe space for dialogue with Elara about the impending challenges and fears. With a deep breath, he began drafting a message to her, committing to address the complexities and potential pitfalls they might face together. However, as he typed, a new doubt stung at the edges of his optimism. What if their partnership faltered before they even gave it a fair chance? For the first time, the thought of failure felt palpable and suffocating. He hesitated over the keyboard, his fingers hovering. This was more than just business. It involved a legacy, a cultural identity at stake. Realizing the hour had crept into late evening, Kania clutched a stack of his notes tightly, determination flaring. He had to confront the uncertainties head-on. The moment of truth beckoned, and he knew he had to emerge not just as a participant, but as a leader, prepared to navigate the storm ahead. Little did he realize that the first ripple of confrontation would soon send waves crashing into the foundations of everything he hoped to create. Kania awoke the next morning with the weight of his intentions still heavy on his chest. The glow of early sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating a cluttered desk full of sketches and notes. A silent promise loomed over him, urging diligence. As he dressed, the mirrored reflection that stared back felt daunting. It was a man grappling with two worlds, one driven by passion and the other by necessity. Today, he would meet Elara. He recalled the vivacity in her eyes as they discussed their collaborative vision, a fleeting spark that ignited his resolve. But as a sense of responsibility bubbled within him, uncertainty taunted those dreams. Could they truly do justice to the culture they aimed to represent? doubts morphed into leads, spiraling until he was questioning whether he was the right person to forge this path. The office felt alive when he stepped inside, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within. His colleagues buzzed around him, immersed in their tasks, blissfully unaware of the inner battle he faced. With every stride toward Ilara's desk, he readied himself for the honesty that would soon unfold. "Good morning, Kania," Ilara chirped, her enthusiasm a refreshing balm against his tension. "Excited for the discussion today?" "More like anxious," he confessed, letting a breath out he didn't realize he was holding. With a slight tremor in his voice, he delved into his concerns about their project. "I've been thinking, how do we address the potential backlash? What if people see us as outsiders capitalizing on their culture?" Ilara's eyes narrowed, resembling a predator sizing up its prey. "Kania, we'll face skepticism, but avoidance won't solve it. We have to be transparent about our intentions. We must build trust, not just sell an experience."
Her words resonated deeply, tugging at fragments of his past. His role as a bridge between worlds had always been complicated. Growing up in a society that idolized success while neglecting authenticity had left scars. If Ilara was correct, perhaps it was time to confront those scars openly.
As they began to outline their initial presentation for stakeholders, a deeper conversation unfolded. Ilara initiated dialogues that drew Kania out of his shell, each question an invitation to share his vision. What emotional threads connect us to this culture? What stories can we unveil? The inquiries encouraged Kania to articulate his thoughts clearly, allowing him to construct a narrative that painted their motives with unwavering clarity. An idea struck him. What if they not only included local artisans, but invited them to speak during the pilot? They could share the roots of their craft, endearing the visitors to the richness of culture beyond a surface glance. This revelation sent sparks of exhilaration coursing through him. Yet the excitement was soon melded with trepidation. Would the artists accept their involvement? They would need to present this vision compellingly enough to invite trust from those who might fear exploitation. Kania's thoughts spiraled. How would he approach the artisans? Would they receive him as a genuine ally, or dismiss him as just another opportunist? Determined not to waver, Kania leaned into the strategy they were crafting, channeling his fear into actionable steps. "Let's arrange meetings with some local artisans. I want to understand their perspectives firsthand. It's crucial we approach them with respect," he declared, invigorated by the purpose of his aspirations. Ilara nodded, her expression one of approval. "Yes, we have to ground our plans in authenticity. First steps matter." As they refined their ideas, Kania began to believe in the power they could harness together. Each suggestion flowed more freely, weaving in experiences that transcended typical business proposals. The day melded into a whirlwind of creativity, laughter, and serious contemplation, leaving him invigorated, but lingering doubts continued to cloud his thoughts. Underneath the rush of adrenaline, he could still feel the gnawing sensation of vulnerability. Exposing their project to criticism felt like unwrapping a fragile gift in the middle of a storm. The day's momentum propelled him forward, yet a single insight kept resurfacing. He wasn't just forging a business, he was crafting an identity. As they closed out the meeting, Kania felt the urgency swell. He had to lay the groundwork for confronting potential adversaries. What he was unearthing wasn't just a professional hurdle, but a personal revelation. Stepping into vulnerability meant embracing authenticity. With determination swelling in his heart, Kania stepped into yet another day, ready to face the unknown. He paused outside the office, a question framing in his mind. Who would he become in the eyes of the local community, the artisans, and perhaps even himself, when pushing beyond his comfort zone? Kania took a deep breath, ready for what lay ahead, unaware that the very next encounter would force him to reevaluate everything he had come to know about courage. Kania stepped into the communal space, adorned with symbols of history and pride, the air heavy with expectancy. Today marked the implementation of the pilot program. The village was abuzz as artisans gathered to explore the collaboration. The vibrant colors of traditional garments mingled with the earthy tones of their surroundings, pulling at Kania's heartstrings. But as he prepared, the anxiety that had haunted him since the inception of this partnership fluttered fiercely in his chest. Standing before the gathered artisans, Kania felt an overwhelming rush of responsibility surge within him. He was here to present more than a mere proposal. He sought to secure the trust of his people, interweaving their futures with the vibrancy of their culture. He remembered the cautious deliberations with Alara and the discussions they had about maintaining authenticity. It was vital that everyone felt included, each voice honored within their shared heritage. "Thank you for gathering here today," Kania began, every word measured against the weight of expectations. "We stand at the crossroads of tradition and opportunity. The pilot program is our chance to share your extraordinary crafts with the world while protecting and elevating our culture." Murmurs swept through the crowd, cautious yet intrigued. He pressed onward, envisioning the artisans who might be skeptical, urging him to find common ground. "I know many of you may feel this change is daunting. I assure you, we are here to collaborate, not dictate. What we create together should hold the spirit of our past, the vibrancy of our present, and the promise for our future." A voice emerged from the crowd, thick with skepticism. "But what if they exploit our culture? What if these visitors view us merely as entertainment?" Kania met the voice with unwavering resolve. "Your concerns are valid and deserve respect. It's critical that we craft experiences that immerse visitors in truth, not spectacle. Your stories, your heritage, they must take center stage. We will not let our identity get swallowed in the pursuit of profit." Encouraged murmurs followed, carrying undertones of relief. Kania could feel the shift, the desire to engage igniting a brightness in the space. "I aspire for artists like you, like each of us, to be the voices leading these experiences," he continued. "You do not merely participate. You guide what the world sees, embedding your truths into every interaction. And we will establish mechanisms for feedback, ensuring your voices echo long after the visitors leave." With every word spoken, Kania felt tension dissipate, replaced by a reverent understanding among the artisans. The fear of commodification began to transform into empowerment, the embrace of a new narrative. As discussions unfolded, Kania listened intently, his spirit buoyed by the engaging ideas and adaptations offered by the artisans. They envisioned workshops that would enthrall visitors while embedding cultural teachings, honoring their legacy instead of simply displaying it. Energy pulsed through the gathering, a collective willingness to explore the unknown. After hours of deliberation, the meeting closed with a consensus to host the pilot program in 3 weeks. As the artisans dispersed, one elder approached Kania, positions of years etched into her face. "You have given us a voice, young chief. We trust you to carry it forward." Stepping back, Kania felt the gravity of that trust enveloping him. This was an acknowledgement of his journey, a solidification of his role not merely as a leader, but as a beacon of hope. They were entering a new narrative, steering their destiny toward uncharted waters, yet his foundations felt steadfast. From that moment, Kania understood the magnitude of his growth. He had confronted his deepest fears and transformed them into tangible commitments. The uncertain boy had evolved into a leader, drawing strength from collaboration and embedding values that transcended simplicity. In the following weeks, excitement and anxiety danced within him as they prepared for the engagement of outsiders. Every exchange fueled an intrinsic belief. This endeavor would ripple more than economic chances. It would stitch the fabric of their culture into the hearts of others. On the day of the pilot launch, Kania found himself overwhelmed, surrounded by vibrant displays of art emblematic of their heritage. When visitors began to arrive, he stood tall at the entrance, witnessing the intricate connection weaving among cultures. Authentic laughter filled the air, resonating against the canvas of vibrant tradition. As twilight descended, Kania marveled at the conversations blossoming between artisans and visitors. They shared stories in earnest, bridging gaps and kindling understanding. Pride surged within him like a relentless tide, reaffirming the true essence of success. Not in numbers or accolades, but in the relationships formed. Later that night, Kania stood at the edge of the village, watching the stars twinkle overhead, each one a reminder of the journey he had undertaken. Hopes swirled like constellations, intertwining past, present, and future. Kania felt a profound sense of completion, knowing he had transformed not just others, but himself. He had conquered fear, balanced sustainability with progress, and woven the threads of tradition into the fabric of a modern alliance. His path had shifted from isolation to communal connection, ignited by shared aspirations. As he prepared for tomorrow's challenges, Kania knew he was no longer just a chief burdened by heritage. It was a mantle he wore with solid confidence. Trust had been forged, bonds established, and with it, a legacy would thrive well beyond him. This marked a new chapter, not merely an end, but the beginning of lasting change. Now, viewers, if this journey resonated with you, you need to subscribe now to ensure you never miss another transformative story like this. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these messages of personal overcoming far and wide. Comment your reactions and thoughts about this conclusion. We want to hear your theories and reflections. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful video with at least 5 friends who need to see the incredible power of transformation depicted here. Your engagement is crucial. Stand with us on this journey.